With a bad back. Can you tell? My God, I have never been in so much back pain. And it's strange because it happened the day I opened at the Fringe on Saturday night. And it really, I couldn't sit, and I can only go I can go back and forth like this. That was about as mobile as I got. And then it got worse. I I couldn't walk. I was playing my 118-year-old father, my late 118-year-old father. He's a ghost. Oh, he's lithe as heck. He's like a flying ghost. He just and me in the meantime, I walk like a 118-year-old man, and I even started getting out. I had a cane that I used in one production, and it actually comes in handy because I can see, oh, this is why you use a cane. So I'm leaning against the wall here in my closet booth it just soothes my back, but it's a killer. And my heart goes out to people who have chronic pain. I've never had chronic pain like that or like this. But my heart goes out to those people who I remember always hearing them complain and thinking, yep. And not wanting to say anything, right? As I'm fond of saying, it's a there but for fortune moment. Anyway, but I'm here. I wanted to get drug free. I think I took some turmeric curcumin gummy bears. I don't think they're bears. They don't animalize them. They're just gummies. So that kind of helps. But we're here. It's an important day. It's a Tuesday. Welcome to the program. It's Emil. Emil, Amok to you. This is my takeout, my takes on all things considerable. A lot happening last night. Today we're going to talk about Trump's four of a kind. I mean, it really is something to look at what a badass this guy is, right? I'm just to look at all the Trump indictments, right? In the New York case, there's 34, falsifying business records in the first degree. That's a state case. New York case, 34. 34, that's a lot. But 34, all right, and then in the classified documents case down there in Mar-a-Lago, 32 counts. Conspiracy to obstruct justice, that's one count there. Withholding a document or a record from an official proceeding, making false statements, concealing a document in a federal investigation. These things add up, all right? So that's the June 9th classified documents case. Then in January 6th, the January 6th federal indictment, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., conspiracy to violate civil rights, another charge there, corruptly obstructing an official proceeding. There's two there. Man, this guy just racks them up. He just racks up these indictments. So there's roughly three of a kind, as they see in poker. He's got trips. And then last night in Georgia, Fulton County, Fani Willis, the DA, one racketeering charge, 3 charges of soliciting violation of oath by a public officer, 1 conspiring to commit impersonating a public officer, 2 charges of conspiring to commit forgery in the first degree, 2 charges of conspiring to commit false statements and writings, 1 charge of conspiring to commit filing false documents, 1 charge filing false documents, 2 charges false statements and writings, a grand total of 91 counts in 4 cases. 4 cases, just starting from the beginning of the year, right, with New York to Georgia yesterday. And it's just history after history after history, right? I mean, Alvin Bragg in Manhattan was the first prosecutor to indict a former president. And we thought, oh, this can't seem normal. I mean, it's not going to seem. But then we got the second set of indictments, and then the third, and now the fourth, and now it seems kind of normal. Like, of course, Donald Trump's a badass. And he's still leading the charge amongst Republicans to be their presidential nominee, which is crazy, don't you think? At some point, don't you have to say, wow, we really want, as Republicans, I'm not one, but I play one here now. We really want this kind of criminally indicted person. Oh, well, it's just alleged, right? I mean, we got to go to trial. Well, we want someone this busy in criminal activity to be our president. I mean, if Donald Trump can survive this is an example of white affirmative action. Just him getting elected president in 2016, that was white affirmative action. Unqualified. Not very smart. As president, we saw what he did. He lost in 2020. He wants to come back because it's not a bad gig. He likes the power. And in the meantime, he has racked up this resume, and people still want him. So it's just kind of incredible here. 91 counts against the man. I wrote my column in the Aldef blog last night as I saw Fonnie Willis unseal the 41 count Georgia indictment. I read it over, and all I can say is don't get inured to the shock of it all. Because when we start getting used to it, that's the real threat to democracy. If we start saying, not only is he the disgraced former president who wants to be president again, he's like the indictment magnet. That's how criminal his demeanor really is. He attracts indictments. That's the kind of guy we want to lead our country and be the leader of the free world. Well, yeah, free world, because otherwise he'd be in prison. He wants to be free. So, yeah, we must preface all this by saying, yeah, we understand Trump is innocent until proven guilty. And you can almost predict, if you go through the counts in the Georgia indictment, he's going to say his tweets, his misstatements, his cajoling of officials to help him steal the election was some form of free speech, right? It's aspirational, because he said it in the last one. These are aspirational ideas and thoughts. He wasn't criminal. That's BS, right? It's not. It's not aspirational. Not when it's connected to the commission of a crime. In this case, the theft of our democracy. Now, he can claim free speech, but free speech I know intimately, right? Not just this thing I do here with you, live. You're on amok.com or wherever you get this, on YouTube, Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter. But I do know free speech intimately, and I'm not committing a crime in the pursuit of art. I've been preparing and doing my one-man show the last week or so. Emil, Amok, lost NPR host at the San Francisco Fringe. You can get tickets by just going to amok.com. There's a link that'll take you to the Eventbrite site. The shows are Thursday, August 17th at 8:30 p.m., Saturday, August 19th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. God, that's a matinee. You can catch the 1 o'clock, then go catch lunch. final show. The show also is coming again at least one night, September 6th. Tickets to be announced. But my show, Emil, Amok, NPR host, got its first really bad review this week. I mean, the others were mostly good, positive. Some were mixed. Some were bad but nice, but fair, right? I don't mind bad reviews. I was an arts critic before I became a critic of just about everything else under the sun. I can take criticism. But critics, you have the right to free speech. So I understand. I get it. Still, it's the unfair reviews that bother me because the critics have they have a kind of power over people who don't want to think for themselves or who they'll trust in the judgment of one critic and say, well, if he likes it, then, or he hates it, then they just go with him. So they have a lot of power, more power than you think. And of course, I know that when I was a critic, I had a sense that whatever I said couldn't make or break a film or a play. But if I said something and it was positive, people would know about it. They'd be curious. Even if I didn't like it, they'd be curious and go see it. I mean, I don't think I was at a level where people would say, oh, Emil hated that. I'm not going to see that. They'd say, well, he hated it. I'm going to see it. So I wasn't like a powerful critic. But all I know is unfair reviews always bother me. So, my show is about Filipino Asian American history that very few Americans know about. They just don't. They don't teach it unless you have Filipino friends who are obsessive about Filipino history. You don't know it. You don't know about how people were colonized and brought to the U.S. as an underpaid labor force subject to discrimination and racism. And, right now, currently in Broadway, there's this Filipino, it's not really a historical thing, but it does dwell in history. Here Lies Love, the Marcos musical. And it's apparently pulling in the crowds with Leah Salonga. I don't sing and dance, though. I tell the truth. And that's one of the things about that show. It's about the singing and the dancing. It doesn't necessarily tell the truth about what really happened. But it tells the truth from the perspective of the wild and crazy elitist Filipinos who spend their times in discos while the regular people of the Philippines live subpar lives. No disco ball in their lives. So, just as African Americans know how slavery affected their lives, I know the impact of being a direct descendant of those early Filipinos, direct descendant, who came in the 20s and 30s as colonized Americans. My dad. And like African Americans, Filipinos were subjected to laws that prevented them from intermarrying, owning property, or voting. For people of color, this is our shared experience. And my show examines how that history impacted my life to this day. To this day. And it's not a show about grievance, about, my employment at NPR, about Harvard. No, not so much. I mean, I talk about it, but I'm not the victim. My father was. I know I'm the hero in my story. My show is about the weight of history that no one knows about. But you'll know about it if you see my show. I mean, is it art? Well, it's expressive and sometimes it's funny. It's my expression. It's not a news report. It's not a TED Talk. And that's what I thought was unfair about the bad review I got recently in the Bay Area. I mean, history is more than 50% of the show, where I talk about it. I give a comment about this history. In fact, the show is really Filipino American history for dummies. And there are a lot of them out there. I mean, no pejorative intended. It's just that they don't know about this history that really is intended to fight the erasure of Filipino American history in our society, of which there's a lot of Filipino American history, read that as American history, that Americans would like to forget. They'd like to forget that as the great democracy, they're the country that actually had a first colony, the Philippines. That as a great democracy, they're the country that went in and invaded the Philippines. Filipino-American War. I mean, these are things that people would like to forget, and most people don't know about it. There was a war in the Philippines. There was Philippines was a colony. But of course, even though I talk about history 50% of the show, the reviewer doesn't mention it at all, which only contributes to the cultural erasure of people of color and their history. It's also the reason why I do the show. So see the show for yourself. I mean, look, I'm the son of a Filipino American. I don't want to call them immigrant. They did immigrate, but they weren't like immigrants where, hey, everything is, you're coming over because you're free to come. You come over because there's this cloud of colonialism over your lives. It's a big difference. So come see the show for yourself. And it's limited run in San Francisco. This coming Thursday, the 17th, 8:30 p.m., 277 Taylor Street. That should be a fun show. 8:30 p.m., 277 Taylor Street. Bring cash only at the Cutting Ball Theater there. Or you can go to Eventbrite and get your tickets online first, and then that's probably the best deal. Eventbrite, or go to amok.com and get the link. So that's Thursday's show, the 17th, 8:30 p.m. Then Saturday at 1 p.m. on the 19th, the final show for this SF Fringe run. And then New York City, I'll let you know when that show is. But it's going to be sometime in September, first couple weeks. You'll learn about, if you see the show, you'll learn about what we have in common, why we fight for justice together, and you'll see why I'm offended by a critic all too willing to deny our history. Because it just reminds us of the importance of telling our stories in public, out loud, to everyone, whenever you can. Now that is called free speech in action. That's free speech. What Donald Trump did when he was talking about activity connected to the theft of democracy or the stealing of an election, Donald Trump can't claim a free speech right there. Not in this new criminal indictment. So here we transition to the hard stuff, you know. We knew a historic fourth indictment against the twice impeached, criminally indicted former president was going to happen. We knew it. It was going to happen because they set up the barricades, Martin Luther King Way, down there in Atlanta by the courthouse. So now it has come, and there can be only one reaction by every American. Are you ready for America's pro-democracy movement? This is our cue. We should embrace the efforts of Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis to seek justice and accountability in the attempted steal of the 2020 election. The 41-count indictment names Trump, 19 people overall, including his lawyers, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Sidney Powell, his chief of staff, Mark Meadows. Yeah, they're all innocent until proven guilty, like I said. But there's a lot of evidence. 31 unindicted co-conspirators who may feel ready to throw someone under the bus at any time. So that's why it's set up as a RICO case, right? The first count alone, there are 161 acts of criminality. 161 acts. And each count, right, has acts within Act 1 alone. 161 acts of criminality. From making false statements, concocting a fake elector scheme, harassing, intimidating election workers, soliciting high-ranking U.S. Department of Justice officials, soliciting Vice President Pence, breach of election equipment, general obstruction in the, quote, furtherance of the conspiracy and the cover-up, and soliciting state legislators and high-ranking state officials. I say that last because you probably recall the Trump conversation with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who felt threatened when Trump asked him to, quote, find 11,780 votes. That's 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have because we won the state. So said Donald Trump to Raffensperger. So I know you've heard that, right? Because hearing is believing. That's not a lie. That's one count. You only need two in a RICO case. It's that. So it's that plus another 160 that are just as damning, such as Trump telling a John McEntee to come up with a strategy to disrupt and delay the official count on January 6th. What the indictment in Act 19 says is an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Interesting that John McEntee is not even, he's not named. So he's must be cooperating. I don't think I saw his name. But there's 161 acts in count one of the 41 count indictment. Each act within the 41 counts comes with a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 to 20 years. And it had to be this voluminous considering the framework of the racketeering charges. They call it the RICO Act, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, signed into law by Richard Nixon in 1970. When I first heard of RICO, it was freshman year, and this was the debate topic on the jury system. And a lot of, wise guys said, oh, look, we're going to do something with the RICO Act. We're going to do something. So it's funny how these things come back, You say, oh, this is the RICO. I learned this in high school. But it's the law that targets groups of individuals who commit a series of crimes in an ongoing criminal concern. So you get a group of people, a gaggle of most often it's gangsters. Usually reserved for organized crime. In this case, it's organized political players attempting to steal our democracy. So if you want to get to a narrative, the very first paragraph is all you need. Quote, defendant Donald John Trump lost the United States presidential election. That's the first line. That's the fact, right? Donald Trump lost the U.S. presidential election. One of the states he lost was Georgia. Trump and the other defendants charged in this indictment refused to accept that Trump lost, and they knowingly and willfully joined a conspiracy to unlawfully change the outcome of the election in favor of Trump. Pretty simple. The law demystified. He lost the election, refused to accept that he lost, knowingly and willfully joined a conspiracy to unlawfully change the outcome of the election in favor of Trump. That conspiracy contained a common plan to commit 2 or more acts of racketeering activity in Fulton County, Georgia, elsewhere in Georgia, and in other states. And this really, the 161 acts in the first count alone, it takes you everywhere. Not everywhere, but more than just Georgia, Michigan, Arizona. It's kind of the, if Jack Smith and his indictment on January 6th was the narrow one, the narrow focus, intended to get to trial by January, which is the hope. This is the comprehensive, almost, this names names. It doesn't spare anyone. There are some unnamed co-conspirators, but they named the unnamed co-conspirators in Jack Smith's third indictment on January 6th. So this is a very simple narrative here. The indictment is kind of more list than narrative, but it tells exactly how many people are allegedly involved, willing to steal the election and break the law in the name of Trump. They got 18 plus Trump, 19. This one is so much broader than the narrow set of federal indictments that were brought by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith. It goes into the depth and breadth of the criminal activity. It shows it wasn't just Trump. He may have been the leader, but this was a group effort to commit crimes against democracy. And it also is a state case, which means Trump can't rely on winning the election and pardoning himself unless he wants to run for, I guess maybe governor of Georgia might be able to. The governor of Georgia came out and said the election wasn't stolen. Trump is wrong saying the election wasn't stolen. And these are Republicans. Georgia's a Republican state. So Trump will have to fight it, even if he manages to become president again. And imagine that. With cameras allowed in the courtrooms in Georgia, the whole world will be watching our national civic lesson on whether the U.S. can protect its democracy from historic bad actors at the top. So just remember, the good guys are the ones protecting the Constitution, not the bad guys trying to destroy it. And now's not the time to get inured. Not the time to get used to the fact, oh, this is Trump. Yeah, shock value is worn off. I mean, it's normal. This isn't normal. So if you haven't been paying attention, time to pay attention. And time to join your local pro-democracy movement, because we need it in America. I mean, I talked to an audience of Asian Americans primarily, and they know of pro-democracy movements in China. They usually fail, but they keep the fires burning, albeit they ultimately fall to the party. But there's that, you got to remember the pro-democracy movements of Asia. And oddly enough, we need one here in America, because we're forgetting what being pro-democracy is about. It's not giving in to an autocratic bully who will bend the law to meet his needs. That's a perverted form of two-tier justice. And now he's being held to account. We should cheer District Attorney Fonnie Wallace. Took guts. A lot of people said, hey, this is going to be a zoo. It's going to be difficult. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. But the fact that it's in the state, the fact that Trump can't pardon himself, the fact that people are named, they could take all the time they need. That would be something. If Trump should happen to get elected, and he can't do official business because he's in court for stealing the election. And then we'll have C-SPAN covering it, and we'll try to figure out just how screwed up we are as a democracy. How could people vote Trump in 2020? Well, we hope he won't, but that's a kind of scenario you can look forward to if the country remains divided and people are still backing up Donald Trump. So that's my column. Catch it on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. Kind of read from it here, but if you want to read it, aaldef.org/blog, and you'll see it. It's entitled Our History, Our Democracy, Our Lost Paradise. Oh, because the final section is just a short one. Our Lost Paradise. Man, I am so heartbroken when I look at the pictures from Maui. You know, Hawaii is the most Asian American state in the nation. My heart hurts for all the victims of the Maui wildfires, and it keeps growing. As I speak, it's just under 100, but sure to break that figure and go. Who knows? Who knows how high? They haven't even gone through a quarter of the area. But, you know, I like to talk about there but for fortune moments. This is a there but for fortune moment. You know, I lived and worked in Honolulu on Oahu for 2 years. So Oahu, the gathering place, right? Honolulu. Maui, I always saw as the place for vacations or seeing my family. My sister used to live there in Hurricane. They used to live in Ganapali, Kihei. And we do things like, you know, drive to Hana. That's about as touristy as I got. But for some reason, they always avoided taking me to Old Lahaina town. I guess they figured, oh, you don't want to go to Old Lahaina. Yeah, no, I want to. I mean, because that's where the history was. That's where the old buildings were. That's where they had the museum. That little museum there that dates back to, you know, some of the origins of Hawaii as a nation, as a state. Now I regret never having spent much time there because the pictures of the destruction are devastating. And the history connecting us to our past is irreplaceable, and it's just lost. It's nothing like the people, though, right? I mean, I heard a first responder say, when you take your clothes off and you dust off the ash, that's not ash. That's our loved ones. That one stopped me dead. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry about Maui. And I hear in my closet, I see my old Hawaiian shirts from my Honolulu advertiser days and my Star Bulletin days. You know, I loved Hawaii. You know, you have to get used to the fact that you are still in America, but you are just, see, from the East Coast, you are you're like 13 hours away, 13, 14 hours away. But you're still in America. What's weird is that you would see someone on television in Hawaii and it would be, you know, it would be light and it would be dark in America or vice versa. It just, the time shift is really weird, right? Because here on the West Coast, Hawaii is 3 hours earlier. And that means it is a full 9 hours, right? No. 3 hours here to the East Coast, another 3 hours to Hawaii from here, 6 hours. Still, it's it's like you are in a different world, and there are times when you see things that are stories here in the mainland, and you say, "Oh, well, we solved that problem in Hawaii." Of course, they didn't. If you say, "Oh, we don't have the kind of racism you guys do on the mainland," well, you got a different kind. It's not black white, maybe, but it might be Asian. Anyway, now everyone's one. They've come together. The stories of heroism and humanity or humanitarian outreach. I mean, those are the stories that are going to sustain us, because they'll happen parallel to another 10 bodies, another 20 bodies, and the damage and what are we going to do? Joe Biden announced that survivors of the fire are going to get $700 each, which is a token sum from the government. But it's something. Sad thing is, there's people out there saying, "Where's the government?" Where they want government. They want government help. Who's going to deny these people of Hawaii some help? This is what government does, and yet, there are a lot of. I mean, this is why the Republicans don't make it in Hawaii, because people in Hawaii rely on government, and they expect it to be there during times like these. And when it's not, I know Joe Biden said he didn't want to go to Hawaii yet because he didn't want to get in the way. I think it's because he can't do as much as he'd like. I mean, he could do more. I don't know. Aside from deploying National Guard and other military folks to help in a humanitarian crisis, I don't know. But this story isn't going away. Maui, the rebuilding of Maui, Trump, and the gathering of indictments, up to 91 for. I don't think he's going to get any more, but the twists and turns will be interesting. All right, so that's it for the show today. We're just going to end it quick. Hey, thanks for listening. We're here Monday through Friday. We drop in, speak our piece, and you can catch us on amok.com. amok.com on, I guess, the regular web. Catch us on Twitter, or the X, formerly known as Twitter. I missed the bird. I missed the bird. But catch us there at Emil Amok, EMIL-AMOK. Catch us on Facebook at fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media. There. Oh, YouTube at youtube.com/@EmilAmok1. So many different addresses. So we're here like 2 p.m. live Pacific to talk about the big stories, things that are happening in my life, my back. Check out my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. Here, I'll put it up here. So if you're seeing this, I was talking to my friend who's up at the Edmonton Fringe, and he did not tell me how that the Edmonton Fringe is like one of the big daddy fringes of Canada. And all the fringe stars that I met 4 years ago, before the pandemic, I went to Orlando. That is a classic fringe festival in the United States. I think that's probably the best for me, Orlando. That is my favorite American fringe. I played San Diego. I played Baltimore, Charm City Fringe. Cap City Fringe is good. The Frigid Fringe in New York, San Diego Fringe. Here's why Fringe. Because I'm not a big time Hollywood player, for lack of a better term. Not by choice, but this is the kind of work I do. I mean, I don't do Barbie. I don't do Oppenheimer. I don't do that kind of thing. I'm an independent theater artist. I guess, in the same way that indie film artists can look at Barbie and say, yeah, that's that, but I do something else. And that something else is the thing that you see on Fringe stages all across North America, all across Europe. Well, I mean, the Big Daddy Fringe, Edinburgh, is taking place right now. It goes for 4 weeks. And idealistic fringers here in America say, oh, I'm going to go to Edinburgh. And yeah, you can. It's pricey as heck. You got it. 30-day runs. It's great for your show. You can also get sick of it faster. But it's a great experience. I'd like to do it someday when my back is better. But in the meantime, there are all these 2-week fringes throughout the United States. Sometimes they're 1-week fringes. And they're just, the spirit of the fringe is you apply, you get your name picked out of the hat. It's not curated. No one censors you. And who knows what you're going to do? I mean, that's part of the appeal of the fringe. And, you could buy tickets for the most part, but a lot of fringes are people show up, they do shows, they pass the hat on to the next show. They really are passing the hat at the end of every show, and that's how they make their money. So this is a kind of romantic, idealistic way of doing theater. And I first heard of it about, I guess I've heard about it. I've heard about the Edinburgh Fringe, but I didn't really know what it was about until about 2015 when I started working out solo shows with people here in San Francisco. And I saw that there people have their dreams. We're going to go to this fringe and that fringe. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's in Edmonton. He's been to Calgary. He's been to Winnipeg. The Canadian fringes are big. Also, the Australian fringes are big. And then you get to meet people on tour. You get to meet the Australians, the Canadians on different parts of the circuit. So it's a kind of a little fun, little underground showbiz thing. It is showbiz. It's theater, live theater. And so I was going at a pretty good clip, usually doing like two a year. And then COVID hit and I did nothing for 3 years. And now I'm just getting back into it. I did the Frigid Fringe in New York in March. I did the San Francisco Fringe now. And I'm enjoying it. It's you do things because you feel a joy or you feel an aliveness. So catch my show Thursday, August 17th, 8:30 p.m. Saturday, August 19th, 1 p.m., 277 Taylor Street. It's the Cutting Ball Theater, SF, site of the SF Fringe, 277 Taylor Street. And experience it for yourself. Like I said, see my response. I got a bad review. I wrote a response. It's on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. Catch it. Come see the show. It's fun. It's fun. You'll learn something. My position is there's a lot of history that people don't know about. So my show is Filipino American History for Dummies. You're not a dummy. All right. We end with a meditation. A bit of loving kindness. Oh, here's how meditation helped me deal with a bad review. I just stopped thinking about it. It went away. Isn't that cool? How does that work, Emil? You just like stopping smoking. Don't put a cigarette in your mouth. Not even a pink flare pen. It sounds simpler than people think. Is that it? And they immediately, you lose credibility with them. It can't be that. It is that simple. You want to stop drinking? Don't drink. Oh, come on, I can't. It's not that simple. Yeah, it is. You want to stop vaping? Don't put that little pen up to your mouth. Don't do it. Just don't. Change your thought. Don't be prisoner to your thought. Just be an observer of the thought and let the thought go. Out, gone. I'm dealing with what's in front of me. That's how you do it. Meditation helped me do that. But we like to end with a little loving kindness. Because, it's all about peace and love. I don't hate the reviewer. I don't hate anybody. In fact, I have nothing but love. Really, seriously, that's the end point. The end point is the love you feel for everybody. And you show it to everyone because you know what? It comes back. So, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time, get your tickets to that Thursday show. Thursday the 17th, 8:30 p.m. Saturday the 19th, 1 p.m. Get your tickets on amok.com or just go to Eventbrite. Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, found in San Francisco, 277 Taylor Street. Till next time. Mahal Kita.